Cynthia's story. I started using in the 4th grade at the age of 9. It started out as experimenting, then occasionally using, then regular using, and by the age of 11, I was drinking vodka and smoking pot on a daily basis. By the time I was in junior high, pot was not enough, so I started using speed and quaaludes along with vodka. I continued to use on a daily basis in high school, but at the same time, I thought about stopping. This didn't happen though, and I found myself trying other drugs in the hope that I would find one that would get me high enough. I was also good in sports, cheerleading, and other activities during high school to keep up the good image. I hid my use from everyone, even my best friends didn't know. I was a functioning alcoholic and addict, and no one ever saw me or knew me sober. During junior high, my hearing loss increased, and by the time I was in high school, I was deaf. Because I was deaf, I did everything, sports, studying, etc., twice as hard in order to be equal with hearing kids. I learned to lip read and speak well by practicing whenever I was alone. I didn't let my family know about my deafness because I didn't want them to feel guilty about my hearing loss. I also kept my deafness a secret from other people because I didn't want them to think of me as handicapped or different. In addition to the secret of my deafness, I couldn't tell my family or other people about my using drugs. I was afraid that people would blame my family or think that I was bad or weak. In my senior year, I applied for and received a college scholarship to Gallaudet. I was so happy to be leaving my hometown and be more involved with the deaf world. This was an opportunity to move away from home, work hard on my studies, and to quit drugs once and for all. But that didn't happen, and eventually at the end of my first year, I quit Gallaudet and moved away. For the next year and a half, I moved from one place to another, running away from reality and the drug world. I would find myself saying, this time I'm going to start over, quit using drugs, and straighten out and live right. That would last for, at the most, a few days, and then I would end up worse than before. I was always breaking my, I'll never shoot heroin, I'll never steal, I'll never. I was always moving as far away as possible from my family and the deaf community so that no one could find out about my chemical use. So I went to Florida, California, and New Jersey. My friends at the time finally decided they couldn't put up with my using drugs, heroin and cocaine, and alcohol, and not sleeping or eating, so they put me into a treatment program. It was hard to find a treatment program in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania area that would accept a deaf person. So during treatment, I learned a lot, but there were no interpreters, so I missed out on groups, which seemed very rewarding for other patients that were hearing. Sobriety after my first treatment experience was only temporary for me. At the end of 6 months, I found myself sitting in jail in New Mexico. I went on a binge in which I used cocaine, heroin, and vodka, and I had been picked up in New Mexico for DWI, possession of narcotics, and paraphernalia, stolen license plates, and assaulting an officer. I was also wanted in New Jersey for grand theft auto and robbery. New Jersey planned to extradite me, but changed their mind since it was my first offense and too expensive. New Mexico let me go with the understanding that I would be out of the state within 24 hours. Back. Even today, if I go back to New Jersey or New Mexico, I will be prosecuted. Through my use of chemicals, I had lost my home, possessions, and everything I had, but for the grace of God, I was let off easy and given a second chance. I was very lucky. My family was supportive and wanted to help. They helped me get into a Minnesota treatment center with an interpreter. I surrendered to my higher power and decided I was willing to do whatever it took to stay sober. I learned more in treatment the second time, but I left with a lot of issues relating to having a deaf family and growing up in a deaf community, partly because staff there didn't understand or misunderstood some of the values of deaf culture. I have been sober now for more than 2 years. In my recovery, I depend a lot on my higher power to get me through the rough times. Because of my deafness, I can't pick up a telephone and talk to someone about when I'm feeling down or when I have good news to share. I have to wait until I see my friends at meetings. I do use hearing people for support, but being from different cultures, certain concepts may be easier to understand by hearing people, being that it is formed out of the hearing culture and language. Many of the concepts, phrases, or slang that are not used in deaf culture and language, so it doesn't always make sense until a person explains it in our language. I take it one day at a time with the help of my friends in AA and NA. When I first came to St. Paul, there was only one meeting for the deaf. With the help of friends, there are now 2 silent AA meetings in the Twin Cities. 1 silent NA meeting and 1 silent ACOA meeting. And a silent Al-Anon meeting is in the process of being set up. I hope that if people can learn from my experience, that they too will take that first step. The deaf community is just starting to learn and accept the idea of chemical dependency, and that is everyone's problem, not just a dirty word.